where you look at the events that take place at the end. One of the signs of the end.
Something unusual is happening in Jerusalem, and the signs are becoming harder to ignore. The ground is suddenly collapsing beneath one of the world's holiest cities. A mysterious city-like structure has appeared high above Jerusalem, leaving thousands asking what they are really seeing. Inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, an unexplained fire has reignited one of Christianity's greatest mysteries. Are these only extraordinary coincidences, or are they warnings pointing to something far greater? Before we uncover these events, please like this video, share it with someone who follows biblical prophecy, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Stay with us, because the evidence becomes even more astonishing from here. Jerusalem has stood for thousands of years, built upon layers of ancient stone that have survived wars, earthquakes, and countless generations of rebuilding. That is why the recent reports of sudden ground collapses have attracted so much attention. In several areas, roads and walkways have cracked or sunk without warning, even though no significant earthquake was recorded beforehand. What makes these incidents even more unusual is that they do not follow the pattern experts would normally expect. The collapses are scattered across different parts of the city, rather than concentrated along a single fault line. Although Jerusalem lies near active seismic zones, no clear geological explanation has fully accounted for both the timing and the distribution of the damage. Adding to the mystery, some damaged areas show signs of the stone compressing inward, suggesting that something beneath the surface may have shifted. This differs from the gradual erosion usually associated with ordinary sinkholes, and brings to mind the words of Isaiah 24:19. The earth is utterly broken, the earth is split apart, the earth is violently shaken. The concern becomes even greater because many of these collapses have appeared near some of Jerusalem's oldest foundations, structures that have endured centuries of history without similar failures. Their sudden instability recalls Psalm 82:5. The foundations of the earth are shaken. Authorities continue to point to underground cavities, ancient tunnels, and long-term erosion as possible causes. Each explanation may account for part of the situation, yet none fully explains why these collapses are occurring now in such a pattern. For many observers, this feels less like an isolated geological event and more like the opening sign of a sequence that is still unfolding. What began beneath Jerusalem does not appear to remain beneath it. As the ground shows signs of unexpected collapse, the atmosphere above the city has also drawn increasing attention. For many observers, these events feel less like isolated incidents and more like the next stage of the same unfolding sequence. Reports describe sudden tornado-like columns forming with almost no warning. Unlike large storm systems or ordinary desert dust storms, these narrow vortices appear rapidly, remain tightly concentrated, and disappear within minutes. Their abrupt arrival leaves little time for preparation and does not always match the weather patterns normally associated with such powerful winds. What has puzzled many observers is the lack of the usual atmospheric conditions. In several cases, there are no major storm fronts or severe weather warnings before the vortex forms. Some damage is limited to a narrow path, where objects are twisted or lifted, while nearby areas remain almost untouched. Witnesses also describe an unusual stillness before the winds begin, followed by an eerie silence after they fade. As these reports continue to emerge, questions have grown alongside them. Official explanations point to localized weather conditions, yet many believe the repeated appearance of these unusual formations deserves closer attention. Given Jerusalem's unique place in biblical history, Some have compared these winds to the warnings and turning points described throughout Scripture, where powerful winds often accompanied moments of judgment or divine intervention. As the ground weakens and the skies grow increasingly unsettled, many see these events as connected rather than separate. And if this sequence continues, the next sign will not come from the air, but from one of Jerusalem's most sacred places. Inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, one of Christianity's holiest places, an unusual event left many worshippers in shock. During a time of prayer, candles suddenly burst into flame without anyone lighting them. There was no visible spark, no lighter, and no obvious cause. One moment the candles were dark, and the next they were burning. What happened next was even more surprising. For the first few minutes, the flames did not seem to burn. People carefully passed their hands, faces, hair, and even pieces of cloth through the fire, yet nothing was scorched. No one was injured, and the flames gave light without causing harm. Those present watched in silence, unsure whether they were witnessing something natural or something beyond explanation. Then the situation changed. Without warning, the same flames began acting like ordinary fire. Anyone who touched them could now be burned. Hair started to singe, cloth could catch fire, and the unusual behavior disappeared as quickly as it had begun. That sudden change made the earlier moments even more difficult to explain. As news spread, many people were reminded of the burning bush in Exodus 3, where God appeared to Moses through a fire that burned without consuming the bush. Others believed the event was a call to humility and discernment rather than a miracle to be celebrated. Whether viewed as a supernatural sign or an unexplained phenomenon, one fact stood out to many witnesses. The fire did not behave like ordinary fire from the very beginning. And in a city where unusual events seem to be increasing, this moment has become another piece of a much larger picture that continues to raise difficult questions. After the flames returned to normal, many expected the church to fill once again with the sounds of prayer and conversation. Instead, witnesses described an unusual silence settling over the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Although the building remained crowded, people suddenly stopped speaking. The stillness felt so deep that many said it was unlike anything they had experienced before. This silence did not bring a simple feeling of peace. Many described it as both calming and overwhelming at the same time. Some lowered their heads in prayer, others stood completely still, and a few began to weep without understanding why. Rather than creating panic, the atmosphere seemed to fill people with reverence and a strong awareness of God's presence. It was during this silence that some witnesses claimed to see angelic figures. Although their accounts differed in small details, many described tall, human-like beings wearing bright robes unlike ordinary clothing. Their faces were difficult to look at directly, and many said their eyes seemed to see straight into the heart. Several witnesses also reported folded, radiant wings that reflected light without dazzling those around them. The appearances lasted only a few moments. The figures did not walk away or slowly disappear. They simply appeared, remained briefly, and then were gone. Afterward, normal sounds gradually returned, but many people continued trembling, crying, or struggling to find words for what they believed they had witnessed. For many believers, these reports immediately recalled the Bible, where angels often appear before important moments in God's plan. They do not come to attract attention to themselves, but to remind people that God is at work. Whether these accounts are accepted as supernatural or viewed with caution, they have become another event that has deepened the growing sense that something unusual is unfolding in Jerusalem. If this message speaks to you, leave a comment, subscribe, and stay with us, because what comes next may be even more important. Near the dry cliffs of Qumran, where the famous Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, archaeologists uncovered a sealed copper tube unlike anything they expected. The container was carefully made and remained remarkably well preserved. It showed no signs of being forced open or damaged. leading many to believe it had protected something important for centuries. Because Qumran is known for preserving ancient writings, researchers naturally assumed the tomb contained a scroll or another valuable document. Copper is durable and resistant to decay, making it an ideal material for protecting important objects over long periods. Everything about the tomb suggested it had been sealed with purpose. But when it was finally opened, the result surprised everyone. The tomb was completely empty. There was no scroll, no inscription, and no trace that anything had ever been stored inside. The smooth interior showed no marks, stains, or evidence that an object had been removed. According to those who examined it, the tomb appeared to have been empty from the very beginning. That discovery quickly raised new questions. If the purpose was not to preserve a message, then why was the container made so carefully and sealed so securely? Some suggested it once held a symbolic object, but the physical evidence offered little support for that idea. Others believed the empty tomb itself was meant to provoke reflection, rather than provide answers. Throughout the Bible, seasons of silence often come before moments of great change. Instead of giving another message, they invite people to examine their own hearts. Whether this discovery is simply an archaeological mystery or something more, its silence has become its most powerful feature. Rather than revealing a message from the past, it leaves today's generation with a question that each person must answer for themselves. Above Jerusalem, an unusual formation in the clouds quickly captured the attention of those who saw it. Witnesses described what looked like a city suspended in the sky, with clear outlines that resembled buildings, towers, and layered streets. Unlike ordinary clouds, the formation appeared organized and sharply defined, making it difficult for many observers to dismiss as a random shape. What made the sight even more remarkable was how long it remained visible. While the surrounding clouds slowly shifted with the wind, the city-like formation seemed to hold its shape. Videos recorded from different parts of Jerusalem showed a similar view, leading many people to ask whether they were witnessing an unusual atmospheric phenomenon or something far more significant. As images spread, comparisons with the Bible appeared almost immediately. Many believers were reminded of Revelation 21, where John describes the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down from heaven. Although no one could say with certainty what the formation represented, the similarities caused many to reflect on the biblical promise of God's future kingdom. Meteorologists suggested possible explanations such as unusual cloud layers or rare optical effects. While these ideas may explain part of the event, many observers felt they did not fully account for the formation's clear structure or the way it remained visible above Jerusalem for an extended period. More than anything, people were struck by the silence of the moment. There was no thunder, no bright flash, and no dramatic movement. The city-like image simply appeared above Jerusalem and remained there, leaving countless questions behind. Coming after the reports of unusual ground collapses, mysterious fire, and other unexplained events, many saw this as another sign drawing attention to one city. And if the sequence continues, the next event will no longer appear above Jerusalem, but within it. One unusual event can often be explained. Two may still be dismissed as coincidence. But when different kinds of events begin appearing around the same city, within the same season, many people naturally start asking a deeper question. The focus is no longer on a single incident, but on the growing pattern they seem to form together. None of these events proves the meaning of the others. Each can be debated on its own. Yet together, they have drawn the eyes of the world back to Jerusalem, a city that has stood at the center of biblical history for thousands of years. Once again, it has become the place where questions seem to gather before answers do. Perhaps that is the greatest warning of all. There has been no voice from heaven giving detailed instructions, no date announced, and no clear explanation that removes every doubt. Instead, people are being left with a choice: ignore what they see, or stop and examine it carefully. Scripture repeatedly reminds us that discernment begins with a willing heart, not with perfect certainty. The greatest danger is not fear. It is becoming so familiar with extraordinary events that we no longer pay attention to them. As the signs become more specific, the question is no longer, is this happening? But, what should we learn from it? The Bible teaches that before God's purposes are fully revealed, what is hidden will be brought into the light. In that sense, the greatest exposure is not of the world around us, but of the condition of our own hearts. This is why Jesus repeatedly called his followers to stay awake, remain faithful, and be ready at all times. If this message encouraged you to reflect, leave a comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.